How's your fantasy baseball team doing so far this year? Are you one of the owners out there devastated by injuries, filling up your IL spots, working the waiver wire? Or is your team fully healthy and you're dominating your league right now? Well, whether it's one of those or you're right somewhere in the middle, let's talk about some waiver wire additions that you should be taking a look at. Hey, what is going on, YouTube land? Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Fantasy Headliners. Whether you're already a part of Headliner Nation or whether you're checking us out for the very first time, thanks so much for checking out this episode of our Fantasy Baseball Weekly Preview show. And I say weekly preview a little lightly because we are one day behind. But with all that being said, we've got a lot of great information tonight. If you've watched this show before, you know that I try to cover a lot, some DFS stuff, some trending up, some trending down, two-start pitchers, lots of different things like that. But I want to talk about waiver wire additions tonight. We're going to spend this episode talking about guys that you should be targeting on your waiver wire because there are a lot of injuries right now and there's a lot of ineffectiveness. There's a lot of players that just aren't doing what we drafted them to do. So we need to work those waiver wires, and whether it's just working the waiver wires and grabbing a guy for a little bit until someone heats up or finding a replacement for the rest of the season or whatever it may be, I've got several guys. You can see them right there on the side of the screen that I've already noted that we're going to talk about in depth. I also have a few other players written down here that I'm going to throw out. Real quick, though, before we start getting into it, I want to throw this information out there to you. It's a big week for us here at the Fantasy Headliners. On Thursday morning, TheFantasyHeadliners.com will go live. Our new website to pair a lot of great written content with some awesome video content is going to be out there for you. Really excited about that, so make sure you mark that on your calendars. And not only that, to basically celebrate the occasion and the first night of the NFL draft, we're going to be live streaming right here on the Fantasy Headliners for the entire NFL first round. So make sure that you tune in for that. Make sure you check out thefantasyheadliners.com. Pre-order your draft guide. We might be giving a couple away for free. We'll see on Thursday night. And then we're also going to be announcing our next signed jersey giveaway. So a lot of great things happening this week. We appreciate your support so much. Check us out on Thursday. A lot of great things are going to be happening. Let's start jumping into it now because we need to talk about these waiver wire additions. And real quick as well, just want to toss out there a little bit of strategy talk for you. So right now there are a lot of players that just aren't playing that well. Okay, it happens. If you're new to fantasy baseball or if you're more of a casual fantasy baseball fan, whatever it may be, hitters are streaky. They're very, very streaky, especially this early in the season. Guys who play in cold weather, maybe they've been dealing with a lot of rain, some rainouts, delays, whatever it may be, a funky schedule at the beginning of the year. There seems to be a few more days off to start the year, not quite into a routine yet. Whatever it may be, don't give up on hitters, okay? Don't give up on them yet. And even with pitchers, the same thing. There's a lot of pitchers right now who are being ineffective. Just try to stay level-headed about this. Don't freak out too much. Don't go trading away assets that you drafted in the first or second round for pennies on the dollar just because they're not playing well right now. In fact, on one of our other videos, one of our other fantasy baseball videos, I had somebody pop up that sarcastically thanked me for touting Jose Ramirez this offseason. And dude, it's still early in the season. He just got Francisco Lindor back. That team is going to get more healthy. He's going to be just fine. Don't worry about it. With all that being said, though, if you are experiencing some of those ineffective players and you need some help getting by, that is where some of these guys could come into play. And the very first one I want to talk about is Clint Frazier. The Yankees, they're looking like a lot of fantasy teams right now, right? A lot of injured players, a lot of issues with that. Clint Frazier is getting his chance to shine, and I was a fan of his when he was in the minor leagues for the Cleveland Indians. If you remember correctly, he was a part of that Andrew Miller trade where Andrew Miller went from New York to Cleveland, and then obviously he went from Cleveland to New York. I like Clint Frazier. I like his power upside this year. Now, I think he's going to be a little bit more streaky. He's not going to hit 330. He's hitting 339 right now, 4 home runs. Excuse me, wrong line there. He's hitting 339 right now, 6 home runs, 17 RBIs. I expect that power upside to continue, especially in that ballpark, but I could see that average coming back down. I wouldn't say a ton, But I wouldn't be surprised if throughout the season, if he does get a regular role moving forward, if you don't see that batting average start to drop maybe towards that 280, 270 mark. So he's a very talented player, though. Not nearly as many stolen bases as I would like, but the potential is always there. But it's that power upside that I like from him, especially if you're in a league that's playing like 5 outfielders. Maybe you have a couple utility spots. Invest in him until Giancarlo Stanton gets back, or Aaron Judge, who we just found out we're probably going to be missing for quite some time. That could end up being an issue too. Next on the list is going to be Josh Bell, and actually it's going to be a trio from Pittsburgh. So I've got 3 guys from Pittsburgh. Josh Bell being the first one. If you remember correctly, he's a guy who I touted in the offseason is a big draft day value at first base. If you were looking for a bench first baseman, this would be the guy to try and get. Not a bad season so far. 303 average, 4 home runs, 15 RBIs. I do hope that average stays the same while the power continues to go up. I would love to see him hit 30 home runs this season. Not quite on that pace as of yet. I would like to see a little bit more power, but still not a bad start to the season, especially for the average. Would like to see that around that 290, 300 mark like I know he can do. If he can do that with 30 home runs, maybe give you around 80 RBIs, he's a decent value. But let's talk about a couple of his younger teammates, guys making their major league debut this week. Cole Tucker, the shortstop, being the very first one, and then obviously Brian Reynolds also joined him. Now, if you're like in a dynasty league or a keeper league, then you really want to keep your eyes on these guys. If you're in a redraft league, maybe give it a little bit of time, but I want to let you know where the upside is going to be from these guys. Cole Tucker is going to be a good source of stolen bases moving forward. He's stolen 30 bags in a season in the minor leagues before. He has a good hit tool. Now, his very first major league hit was that bomb to center field. Okay, a great story. You saw his family going crazy there in the stands. But with all that being said, he's not going to hit for a ton of power this season. I would like to see a decent average, but it's the stolen bases. If he can get on base, he's going to score runs, and he's going to swipe some bags, and that is why I am keeping him on my radar, especially if you drafted a team that is not great in the stolen base category. He could help there. Now, his teammate, Brian Reynolds, the power is also an issue for him. He's not going to steal any bases, not going to steal many bases. The power probably isn't more than maybe 15, 20 home runs at the most this season, at the most, but I'm aiming for that 15 mark more than anything. But he has an excellent hit tool, a guy that can hit 300. So if you're in a deeper league, again, maybe a lot of outfield spots, a couple of utility spots, if you're just looking for a guy to fill in that can offer you some hits, then this might be a guy that you take a look at. However, he's still going to need that regular playing time moving forward as well. He's 4 for his first 6 at bats so far, so a good start. He's got to get that regular playing time, but he is a guy that could be, again, a good source of hits moving forward. Just not a lot of power, not a lot of stolen bases. Byron Buxton. I said to everyone this offseason that I want to buy Byron Buxton. He's far too talented to not buy, but I was worried, and I was skipping on him. Well, if you didn't skip on him and you own him right now, good investment on your part. Right now, he is 62% owned in fantasy leagues, hitting 283 with 4 stolen bases. No home runs yet. However, he leads the league in doubles. So he does lead the major leagues in doubles right now. So a little bit of extra base power. He's got amazing speed, though. We know that. So those little bloopers down the line, maybe something that squeaks past the outfielder just a bit. He's got the speed to turn those singles into doubles. And that obviously for those of you that play in any category leagues with doubles, or if you take into account any kind of extra base percentage, whatever it may be, or OPS, slugging, things like that, if you take those types of things into account, then he's a guy that could offer some sneaky value. Here's the thing though. Right now, his strikeout percentage is only 23.1%, which is the lowest of his career. His batting average of balls in play is a little high. It's a little too high for me right now. It's going to come down at some point. He's in the high 300s right now in terms of batting average of balls in play. That will probably come down, and even if he gets closer to the career norm, that's all right. He could still end up hitting between 260 and 280, but that's a lot better than what we've seen from him so far. Obviously, we'd love that average to be a little bit higher up, but give and take, he's a guy that could fill in right now. Again, if you're looking for an outfielder to fill some of those spots, maybe you had like an Austin Meadows on your team, and Aaron Judge, whoever it may be that is currently hurt, Giancarlo Stanton, you can slide him in for right now, and he could offer stolen base potential and some extra base hit potential as well. And he's not striking out nearly as often as he used to, so if you have strikeouts, you don't have to be nearly as concerned about those. Yandy Diaz is another guy that I want to bring up again. I've brought him up in some previous videos. The reason I'm bringing him up right now is because in a lot of leagues, he's probably just added third base eligibility, which really opens it up. Like if you play on ESPN, he's only been a DH. He just recently added third base. He does have first base eligibility in like Yahoo as well. So it depends on what league platform that you play in, but he's just added that third base eligibility in a lot of spots. So that opens up what you can do with him. Yandy Diaz only 47% owned right now. 288, 5 home runs, 15 runs. The thing with him, he's always been able to hit. He's always been able to maintain a decent average. It's been the power. Well, the power's starting to show now. 5 home runs. If he can continue to do that, again, another sneaky play that you can put in like a corner infield option right now if you need that, or another utility spot if you need that as well. Those are all hitters that I'm keeping an eye on. The main ones that I wanted to talk about. Also want to throw a few guys out there. 58% owned Christian Walker at first base. He's hitting 353 with 6 home runs, so keeping an eye on him. Not nearly as many RBIs as I would like, though. That's why I've been kind of laying low on him, but his ownership percentage is continuing to go up. Jason Hayward, 66% owned, playing very well right now. 351 average, 4 home runs, 3 stolen bases. He's giving you stats across the board. Maikel Franco at third base, 274 average and 6 home runs, 18 RBIs. So he's a pretty decent value right now, 68% owned. And then Hunter Dozier is a guy I want to keep an eye on as well. First base and third base eligibility, a 304 average, 6 home runs. He hits the ball hard, man. He does. He has an excellent exit velocity. He is a guy that could really put up some decent home run numbers this year. Very under the radar, only 50% owned in leagues right now. Okay, let's move on. Let's move away from some of the hitters. Let's talk about pitching right now, because pitching is, for the most part, been the issue for a lot of owners right now, whether it be injuries. Obviously, Jacob deGrom, what's going to end up happening with him? Chris Sale, he's been having some issues. He hasn't been himself. What's going to end up happening with him? This is not an ad for Snapple. This is just what I had to drink right now. I felt like a Snapple. It's Mango Madness. Not bad. Anyway, let's talk about some pitching waiver wire prospects that you want to be taking a look at. I said prospects, not prospects. Some waiver wire potential ads. So Caleb Smith, my first starting pitcher from Miami. I think he's really, really under the radar right now. This is a guy that is starting within those deep diving fantasy players. He's already known. But again, if you're more of a casual fan or if you're playing more of a casual league, this guy is probably still available right now and you can get him. So make sure that you do that. In 23 innings pitched, he has 29 strikeouts. So he's got some great stuff at the plate. A 2.35 ERA, a 0.87 whip right now as well. He's pitching very, very good. He might be the best waiver wire pitcher that you can pick up right now. So if you can still get him, you need to get your hands on him. And a lot of people look at these starting pitchers to begin the season and they get scared off and like, oh, he's not going to end up continuing this, or he did that against easy competition, whatever it may be. But Caleb Smith, 4 starts so far, the Mets, the Braves, the Phillies, and the Nationals. Those are teams that you don't really scoff at when you look at their lineups. They have pretty decent lineups. The Mets obviously been playing well. The Phillies, the Braves have an intimidating lineup. Nationals not nearly as good as it has been, but still a good lineup. So I'm looking at those matchups and I'm saying Caleb Smith right now is for real. Now, is he going to have a low 2 ERA and a whip under 1 all season? No, but I could still see him averaging more than a strikeout per inning. So if you're in a league that takes that into account, or you take into account strikeouts per 9, which in terms, if you're in a league with strikeout per 9 innings, you try to look towards those relievers a little bit more, not necessarily your starters. He's a guy that can help in those ratio and overall categories that you might have. Caleb Smith, make sure you get him. Another guy I like out of Oakland, Frankie Montas, a guy that I just picked up as well for one of my teams. He was still available. 23.1 innings pitched so far, 23 and a third innings pitched, 20 strikeouts. So he's right there on that 8 to 9 strikeout per 9 innings, a 2.7 ERA, a .94 WHIP. Another pitcher with a WHIP under 1 that's offering some excellent upside on the waiver wire right now. His line drive percentage and his extra base hit percentage are way down, including his walk percentage as well. So he did start last year, and the year before that, though, he was out of the bullpen a lot, but he's pitching extremely well right now. His batting average of balls in play is only 200 at the current moment, though. So keep an eye on that. That's well below his 316 career average. This is a guy that I think right now we're riding the hot streak. Get him to fill in, but if it's a really tough matchup, if it's an away matchup that maybe offers, a ballpark that is not nearly as good in terms of whether it being a hitter's or a pitcher's ballpark, if it's a strong lineup, then maybe you're looking at him more as just a streaming option and not a guy that you're going to plug and play every single start. But I would still invest in him right now if he's on your waiver wire, because I think he could offer good upside, because those hard hit percentages are down right now. If he can continue to limit that, even if the batting average of balls in play continues to go up, if it's just singles and things like that, we can work around that a little bit. He's still striking out enough pitchers, so he's definitely got to continue to keep an eye on. This one baffles me. Okay? I don't know. I have no idea why Marcus Stroman is still under 60% owned in fantasy baseball leagues right now. I have no idea. I have no words for that. Now, I know that I'm a little bit more of a Marcus Stroman fan than most people out there, and that's fine. And he was a guy that I said, let's buy into him this year. And I ranked him inside my top 24 starting pitchers, and I got some grief about that, but I said I thought he was going to bounce back this year. And so far, so good. 30.2 innings pitched, 29 strikeouts. So again, between that 8 and 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, a 1.76 ERA to go with 1.24 WHIP. Dude is pitching great right now. I don't know how he's still under 60% owned. I don't get it. I don't understand. If you know why, tell me below, because I don't know at this point. Again, I like him a lot more than most people, but he needs to be in owned in a lot more leagues. Even if we think he's going to implode and get worse, ride the hot streak, people. His K percentage right now is a career high. His walk percentage right now is also a career high. So we're being careful with that. And that's why that whip is more 1.24 than it is being lower, because even though he's striking out more people, he's walking more people. But his line drive percentage and his batting average of balls in play is also in line with his career norms. So taking a look at those numbers, I anticipate him, even though, yes, he's walking too many people right now, he's going to get burned at some point. He's going to give up maybe a few runs in a game. He's not going to give you a quality start every single time out, because, again, he continues to walk a bit more people. But because everything else is in line with his career norms, Marcus Stroman is a guy that even if the ERA starts to tick up into the 2s towards the 3, even low 3s, he's still a guy that could be valuable because he's striking out a lot of people and he's limiting the damage. Keep an eye on him. Pick him up. For heaven's sakes, please pick him up. If you pick him up after watching this video, please comment below and let me know, okay? Because I'm keeping a tab of all you Marcus Stroman fans out there. And then the guy that I wanted to throw in, because I've had a lot of questions about him, I don't think I necessarily love the addition, though. So Zach Davies, 22 and 2/3 inning pitch, 15 strikeouts, a 1.19 ERA, and that's why a lot of people are saying, ooh, I got to get Zach Davies right now. 1.28 WHIP. But the problem is all of his stats are in line with his career norms, which would lead me to believe that ERA of his is going to end up going back up, the ERA that you're looking more at like the high 3s, low 4s, and he doesn't strike out a lot of guys either. And because of that, he's going to have trouble limiting those big innings. He's not going to be able to get out of it. He's going to be relying on his defense way too much. I'm not saying anything about the defense in Milwaukee. I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that. But again, got to be able to strike out more than five guys per 9 innings as a starter in the major leagues. Some people can do it, but Zach Davies has never been very successful doing it. He's got a track record of having a higher ERA, so I would expect that ERA to balloon at some point, so be careful with that. If you're going to invest in him, only do it as a streaming option on really, really good matchups, but other than that, stay away because the upside is not there. So again, like I said, a lot of options there for you to grab this week if you need to do that. Like I said, I typically cover a lot more in this show, this weekly preview show. But already going towards 20 minutes at this point, and I covered a lot of options this week for the waiver wire. So that's what I wanted to make sure I did with all the ineffectiveness out there, all of the injuries, everything like that. I wanted to make sure that we covered a lot of options for you to get onto your team this week. If you have any questions for me, hit those comments up below. Hit me up on Twitter at krich1532. Did you just pick? What's been your best waiver wire pickup so far this year? Let us know in the comments. Also, let us know if you pick up any of these players and what you expect going forward for them. Again, I'm Kyle Richardson with the Fantasy Headliners. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. Really appreciate your support out there. Don't forget on Thursday, make sure you join us here on YouTube for a live stream for the NFL Draft, and visit TheFantasyHeadliners.com, launching this Thursday morning. Very excited about that. Thanks so much again, and we'll catch you on the next episode.